spin that block, get dizzy. Man get popped, not busy. Man get splashed from the Draco. Wet man call that drizzy.
We're thankful to have you on, Dwayne. Thank you for making some time for us. Please give the people a brief introduction.
Well, thank you, Markus, man. We've been talking about doing this for a minute.
Yeah.
With COVID and then the flood, everything kind of life got to us, right?
That's right. That's right.
I'm glad that we got a chance to do this and have a good little chat. Well, Markus already introduced me. I'm Dwayne Vigilance. I'm the head coach of the women's basketball team at Keyano College. I'm also interim coordinator and head strength and conditioning coach for our Alberta Sports Development Center. And newly ACAC EDI chair, and we'll get into that probably a little later.
Yes, absolutely.
I grew up in Fort Mcmurray. Our family moved here in '79. I went away, went to school, went to college, kind of did my thing, got my education, then had the opportunity when I was coaching in Australia to come back to the grassroots program of Keyano College. And, I jumped at the opportunity to help out this college, become where it's become. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Dope. Thank you for that, coach. So first things first, you grew up in Fort McMurray. Where are you from originally?
Yeah, I'm from Winnipeg. I was born in Winnipeg.
Hey.
My family's from Guyana.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny, I was actually born in Winnipeg too.
Okay.
But my family's from Trinidad, so there must have been something going on with the Caribbean and in Winnipeg, But yeah, so no, that's excellent. And so you went to school. You went away for school. Where'd you go to school?
Yeah, I first went to SAIT.
Okay.
Way back when in '91, I had great pleasure to play for Phil Allen, the late Phil Allen. So I had a great opportunity to play for him there. I got injured, and then just didn't work out for me. I was young. I was kind of like a punk then, and I just wanted to play ball. I wasn't into going to school and hanging out. So I ended up coming home and taking the year off. More than a year off. It took about 4 years off, 4 years off. And then one day I just got a call out of the blue from Malaspina, which is now VIU, and that was Mark Simpson and Scooter, who's now at TRU.
Okay. So before we go there, I don't know if you saw our other interview we did with another Keyano Huskies player, Jacob Simmons.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So he grew up in Fort McMurray, right? Yeah. So it's for me, like, it's always interesting to me to see that the dynamics that people were actually playing basketball and playing at a high enough level to play in the college and university, et cetera, et cetera. So you're saying in '79, I think you moved to Fort McMurray in '79. I won't ask you how old you were then, but eventually you went to play basketball at SAIT. Did I hear that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so obviously what was basketball like prior to you arriving at SAIT? What was the basketball scene like in Fort McMurray back then?
Oh, man, it's hard to picture it, but no word of a lie. You just got to think Hoosiers and Hickory. That was Fort McMurray basketball. Challenge Cup back then, dude, the game would start at 6 o'clock. And this was the girls' game. If you legit didn't go right from your class after school at 3:30, you did not get a seat.
Oh,
we were packed. Doesn't matter if we played at a Composite High School where I went to school, Fort McMurray Composite, Father Merck, or at Westwood. Man, every school, man, you had to get there early because it was packed. It was no joke. It was no joke.
Wow. It's hard for me to picture that because I see the basketball scene now, and obviously the game is growing, but from the sounds of it back then, it was like a hotbed. Like basketball was a big focus back then, and there was a lot of engagement from the community.
Absolutely, basketball back then was, like I said, it was incredible. I was never really a basketball player. I started playing soccer, and I played soccer at a high level. But going out and watching my brother play and watching all these guys play that are before me, Greg Thompson, and Greg Thompson played at that Grant McEwen before it was a university, and he was one of the leading scorers in the ACAC. But this catch from McMurray, right? So that's the talent. Haber Baines, who played on the junior national team, he's from Fort Mcmurray as well, right? So we had these hidden gems, these cats that balled and no one knew about them. And when I flipped over from soccer to basketball, man, I just fell in love with it because, you know, the city really embraced you, and, you know, the development that I had as a youth just took me to where I didn't expect to go.
Right. No, that's amazing. So just last question on that. Talk to me about, like, I know you already, you mentioned one coach, but were there knowledgeable coaches back then in Fort McMurray that could actually grow your skills and really develop you? It's hard for me to understand it. Just believe this, seeing what Fort McMurray is, but talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, my high school coach was a guy named Bob McCracken, you know, small, 5'3", maybe, if that, glasses, soft-spoken man, but when he got into the basketball court, man, he got into you. He taught me, you know, doesn't matter how big I was, because I was small and I'm still small now, but how to battle, how to fight, you know, how to work on my skills, do things that other people my size was not doing. You know, and then my dad, you know, who also was my soccer coach, but also came and I think he was in grade 10, started coaching with Bob McCracken. And, you know, my dad was the one who took us to all these camps, U of A camps, Olds camps, U of L camps. You know, he would take everybody. It's not just me. He took the community. He would have his van and it'd be packed up with 10 guys and we're going to camps.
Nice.
And that was my basketball development, man, at the grassroots level.
Nice. Okay, so we're at State, we get injured, then you get a call. So bridge the gap from you getting that call to where you are now as the head coach of Keyano.
Oh wow, that's a big gap. Going to Mount Pina the first day, man, it was a life-changing. He doesn't even know this. Mark Simpson probably doesn't even know this, but he impacted my life immensely. I was still kind of lost then, being like 22 years old. I was lost, didn't know what I wanted to do. And he taught me a game on another level that I never even thought of. And if anybody knows anything about Mark Simpson, he's under the tutelage of Ken Shields and the U of A powerhouse days.
Right.
And Rob Poole, you know, that coaches that, you know, and on and on and on, it came from Ken Shields. But that was the background that Mr. Simpson had. And man, I grew to love the game. I thought I loved the game before, but I really loved the game. Knowing to trust people, to trust him, to think outside the box, to play the game truly how it's supposed to be played. And that's hard, and with a pureness of a passion. And that took me to, you know, to coaching. The knowledge that I learned in the 3 years I was there propelled me to be the assistant coach at Mount Royal College, again, before it became a university. So I kind of, you know, built my coaching philosophy there with Mark Kozak, who's now the CEO of the ACAC, but he was my first AD there. And so, you know, I went through, and Eddie Richardson was one of the players that we had there. Josh Feast, and we had all these great players that you know, I had a hand in developing, and I'm very proud of that. And then from there, I started getting into Alberta basketball. So I did some Alberta North stuff, coached U15 boys a few times, coached in the summer games, coached in the winter games. And then just continued to coach. So I went to Edmonton, coached for Salisbury, their junior boys team. And, you know, that experience changed the way I coached basketball. I took over the team. I believe they were like 0-40 or something. They haven't won in 3 years. So I took these bunch of ragtag kids that didn't like each other, didn't go to school. And we ended up actually making playoffs for the first time. We were 8-8 and we're just loving it. But one of the traditions that I took from there, and this was years ago, that we still do today, and you've seen this, where our girls hug before every game. That was from those junior boys. So we had a fight, like a little physical fight in one of our practices. And so I started practice and we sorted it out, and we had a talk, and we sat and we just talked. We talked about life, we talked about basketball. And I said, before we leave, we need to figure out what we're going to do to honor each other.
Mm.
Not fighting anymore, because if we fight, that's it. The season's over. And so they came up with, you know what? How about we just hug each other? We don't have to say anything, coach. We just hug each other. And so that stuck with me. 15-year-old boys taught me that.
Wow.
From there to Australia, to Japan, back to Fort McMurray, I've been doing the same thing. And it stems from the junior boys at Salisbury.
Spin that block, get dizzy. Man get popped, no busy. Man get splashed from the Draco. Wet man call that drizzy.